Hey house guests, welcome to today's BB23 updates and spoilers. Happy Monday. I wish I was napping. You know how many naps I get during the Big Brother season? Like 2. But anyway, thank you all so much for being here. I hope you're all having a great day so far. Our house guests of the day are Alexander Hewitt and S. Dean. Thank you both so much for the support. We could not do this without you, and we appreciate it so much. So thank you again. And if you guys want to be house guests of the day, check out our Patreon link in the info box below. It's only $1 for a holla. Woo! And I also want to thank yesterday's super chatters before we get going here, because super chat is a fantastic way to support our channel and keep us doing what we're doing. So Jefferson Tucker, Adley Bruges, Gail Murphy Comedy, the T of Texas, and Angelica. Thank you all so much. It's too bad we don't have an Eliza, and Peggy. But anyway, enough of that. Thank you all so much for the super chats. And thank you to today's super chatters already. We've got Jefferson Tucker. Thank you so much. He says, I've got my brand new Madrosed t-shirt. That's awesome. And ready to rock all this house drama. I hope you're enjoying your Madrosed merch. I actually have a different Madrosed shirt on today. This is a custom jersey from Team Jerseys Pro. And if you guys want to create your own jersey, I have a 10% off coupon code. You just got to put in Madrosed when you check out, and you'll get 10% off. And the link for Team Jerseys Pro is down below. I love this jersey. But anyway, thank you, Jefferson. And thank you again. He says, is it just me, or does Brittany's screams for when she is excited and when she is upset sound very similar? I do feel bad for her. I feel bad for her too. I mean, she has mentioned that she's on the autism spectrum, so her emotions are not always going to line up with everybody else's. You know, she probably feels things in a different way than somebody who is neurotypical. So it's heartbreaking to see her so upset, but we'll get there. Laura Dalton, thank you so much for the super chat. We really appreciate it. Sheena123, thank you for the super chat. He says, who from the season would you like to see on an all-star season? That's a good question, because there are so many fantastic house guests on this season. It's just such a great cast. Usually I'm sick and tired of all of them by now, but honestly, like, I still really like everybody. But who would I like to see on an all-star season? Probably I would like to see Derek X come back after hopefully watching a few more seasons, since he is so new to the game. I'd love to see Hannah come back in a few years when she's a little bit older, has a little more life experience. I mean, she's very, very mature for her age, but still, like 21, she's this good. Imagine her when she's like at least 25. She would be incredible, unstoppable. But I think those would be my top 2 picks. And of course, Tiffany, because Tiffany's a blast to watch and so game smart. Let's see. Dust Fingers, is that right? Dust Fingers, thank you so much for the super chat. And they asked, would you go on BB? I've actually auditioned before in the past. Obviously I did not end up on the show, but I stopped auditioning a few years ago because I feel like I'm in a different point in my life now, and I'm not sure that I would enjoy this experience so much. So I've kind of moved past it. That being said, if they got in touch with me and were like, hey, we want you on the show, I don't know that I would be able to turn it down, but I'm not like seeking it out anymore. Rigo's Life, thank you so much for the super chat. And Rigo's Life says, thank you and Janet for all your hard work. I've been a viewer for almost 8 years. Crazy. Keep up the good work. That is crazy. Thank you so much for sticking with us. That really, it does mean a lot to us, especially when you guys come back year after year. That is awesome. So thank you. Let's get started. When we left off yesterday, Claire and Derek F were on the block. Alyssa won the power veto. We know it was Otev. Can't wait to see Otev on Wednesday night. And we know that Kyland won the second power veto because he bet on Alyssa via the High Rollers Room twist. And now they've both got vetoes. So Alyssa's telling Kyland she's going to do whatever he wants with her power veto. as long as Sarah Beth and Xavier are not in danger of going up as replacements. So Alyssa and Kyland have decided mutually that it's best for Alyssa not to know what Kyland is planning on doing, because then if people are asking her about it, she doesn't have to lie to them. She could just be like, I don't know, he didn't tell me. So that makes her life a lot easier. So you may be wondering, what is Kyland's plan? Well, Kyland wants to use the power veto on Claire, put up Brittany in her place, and send Brittany out. Ooh, but Kyland's been super messy this week. He's pissing off his allies inside and outside of the cookout, and the target on his back is growing every single day, every hour. He just keeps doing more and more crazy things that leave people wondering what happened between Kyland's first HOH and Kyland's second HOH to get us to this point, because he is completely different this time around. It's a lot. It's too much. So now the question is also, will anyone give Brittany a heads up that she's going up on the block? Because she's under the impression that neither of the power vetoes or powers of whatever are going to be used. Okay, so yesterday morning, the former Jokers, Brittany, Big D, and Azah are in the yacht club bedroom. And Big D says, I need to figure out what I'm going to do. Okay, he knows at this point that Brittany's going to be going up on the block against him, and he knows that he's safe, he's fine. But he's still lying. He's still lying to Brittany and keeping her in the dark. So Brittany says, well, we need to paint a target on somebody else. And she says, I have the person picked out. I just got to figure out how to do it. So Brittany says, there are people in this house who have sway. And she says, it's like what these people say is law. And that's dangerous. So she tells Derek F, I know you like your Sundays, which made me laugh. But she says, I need you to go around and ask people what they think about Kyland's HOH and how he's running it. And then anything bad that they say about Kyland, you need to use to your advantage right now. You need to tell Kyland about it. So she's like, here are the people that you need to talk to and try and get some like sound bites from. Hannah, Derek X. Those are like the two that she really mentioned, and it seemed like she was mostly focused on Hannah. She says Hannah has pull everywhere in the house and she's just going to skate to the end. So Brittany says, guess what? The nice game is out the door. We need to start manipulating people. We need to start painting targets. Like, we need to really start playing Big Brother. And she says someone's got to go from that clique of Hannah, Derek X, Claire, Tiffany, and Sarah Beth. So Big D and Azah didn't have much to say about all this. It was mostly just Brittany talking and sharing her plan. And Big D was like, okay. And Azah was just tell her. Okay, so then Xavier and Azah were chatting in the gym. And they're talking about how bad Kyland looked during the power veto competition. It looked an awful lot like he threw it to Alyssa. And that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. So Xavier says collectively, the cookout needs to get better at covering up throwing competitions, because I guess everybody pretty much realized too that Azah threw the competition to Brittany. She didn't really cover it up so great either. So Azah asks Xavier, how do you feel about Kyland's decision for the replacement nominee this week? Because again, he's planning on putting up Brittany. And Xavier says, it is what it is. You know, how do you feel about it? Honestly, Xavier's like, woo, because he's getting what he wants. Alyssa is going to be safe this week. That's what he was really concerned about. So Azah says, I don't feel like this was a team decision. And Xavier says, oh, honestly, I feel like it was. Oop, I don't think that's the response that Azah was expecting. But Xavier says, I went around and talked to each of the cookout members individually and asked them what they thought. And me, Kyland, Tiffany, we all wanted Brittany out. And Big D and Hannah said that they were fine either way. And Azah's like, well, you didn't tell me that. Like, that's a surprise to me. I thought you and Big D wanted Claire out. You know, that's why I said that I wanted Claire out. So Xavier says, no, I want Brittany out. because I'm pretty sure that she got 100 BB bucks this week from America, and she could go for next week's power, which is that roulette one where somebody can take somebody else off the block, and then you just spin a wheel to determine randomly who will be going up as the replacement. That's dangerous. And he said, or she could go for the coin flip power the week after, which if you call the flip correctly, you take over the HOH for the week. Absolutely wild. So he's like, yeah, we can't risk her getting that because she's unpredictable in this game. So he says, then next week we can take out the other person outside of the cookout that got 100 BB bucks this week, which will be DX. Ooh. Okay, so in any case, Azah says she's not happy with how Kyland has been handling his whole HOH this week. Tell us how you really feel. She's been talking about it a lot all week. So a little later, Kyland, speak of the devil. He's not the devil, but you know what I mean. He was talking to the cameras in the HOH room, and he says he is still planning on taking Claire off the block this week. Something crazy would have to happen to change his mind on that. He says it would have to be DX. Derek X would have to tell me a reason why we would have to send Claire home because he trusts Derek X's word on this. But it's not happening because DX does not want Claire to go. No way. So then the feed's cut out for a minute, so we missed some stuff. But when they come back, Kyland is saying, the three of us have had the power and the influence over the house to make major decisions. And I think he's talking about the cookout. Three of them have had more of a hand in making decisions. I'm assuming he's talking about himself, Xavier, and Tiffany. And he says the other three have not. Some of us are looking at the greater strategy behind the game, and others are only looking at what's in front of them. And he says, I'm trying to figure out how to bring everyone together to show why not everyone should be making decisions. Yikes. Kyland is so full of himself now. What is going on? So he says, I'm looking at a lot of options that some people might miss. I'm in the know about a lot of information that others may not be. He does admit too, he's probably out of the loop on some information that other people may know. So at least he's being a little humble there. But Kyland says he's concerned because at this point, all the members of the cookout should want to solve their problems, but he feels like some of them don't. So he brings up how Azah has been saying she wants to work with Kyland. She wants to be a part of making the decisions. But then when he had his meetings before the nominations and he was asking her questions, she didn't want to answer. She didn't give him any answers. And he was like, how is she supposed to be involved in this if she's not willing to talk game with me? She's not willing to give me her opinions. I mean, that is a good point, But they're both at fault here. So Kyland says he is planning on bringing everyone into the HOH room again, one at a time. He's going to make sure that nobody's in there longer than 20 to 30 minutes. And he's going to be asking them the same questions again, maybe some new ones. Why? Why are you doing this to us? It's too much. Oh my God. So he's going to do his thing with the grid again. Okay, so we have that to look forward to later. So then Derek X and Claire were chatting in the sea glass bedroom. And Claire is talking about possibly trying to flip the vote so that Big D goes this week instead of Brittany. So she's saying Brittany is still going to be a target if she stays, and she'll want to go after Kyland. And then if we take out Big D, we'd be getting rid of a goat that people are going to want to drag to the end because they know that they can beat him. So Claire's been talking for a few weeks now about how she wants to get rid of Big D because she doesn't want him taking somebody else's spot. And she knows, if you end up next to Big D on the block, you're probably in trouble. So DX is like, yes, this is perfect because I was so bored lately. Let's get something going here. And he seems genuinely interested in trying to do this. I'm not sure if they're actually going to pursue this or not. We'll see what happens. But even if they did, I don't think they would be able to pull this off without getting the cookout to turn on each other. They're missing that piece of the puzzle that the cookout is working together because you need 4 votes this week for a tie, which Kyland would break a tie in Derek F's favor. And you need 5 votes to just get something done without a tie. So even if Azah is voting for Brittany to stay, they would still, I feel like Sarah Beth and Alyssa would still be talking to Xavier and Kyland about their votes, and I don't see them going against what the guys want. So, eventually Kyland and Xavier would find out about it and they would squash it, and Azah would flip her vote back to keep Big D to make sure everything's going to be okay. So I don't see it happening, but you never know what could happen. Maybe the info about the cookout will come out and they will keep information from the other cookout members. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but it doesn't seem very likely at this point. So Xavier and Hannah were chatting in the HOH room, and they agree. Everyone's really tired of Kyland at this point. Xavier says, with the exception of Big D, the rest of the cookout is totally on board with Kai being the first one to go once they get down to the final 6. So, yeah, we've heard them say that before. So Hannah asks Xavier, who is your ideal final 4? And Xavier says, me, you, Tiffany, and Big D. So Hannah says, yeah, that's what Tiffany and I were talking about as well. We like that. We're on board with that. And she says, whoever wins that final power veto can do whatever they want. They assume they're going to just beat Big D in that last competition and just get rid of him, So then they discuss how they're the 2 most level-headed members of the cookout. Agreed. And they would really like one of the 2 of them to win the next HOH because they feel like Azah, Tiffany, Big D, they would be all over the place. And of course, Kyland will not be eligible to play in the next HOH. So they want to make sure they're in control, especially with all these crazy powers floating around. They don't want anything bad to happen. Okay, so it seems like Hannah wants to take out Alyssa if she wins, and then Xavier wants to take out Derek X if he wins. And they both seem to be okay with the other person taking out their pair. So then Big D and Azah were chatting on the Sky Bridge, and Big D says, I need everyone in the cookout to start working together. Actually working together. And Azah says, I would love for that to happen, but the tone has been set at this point. She says, you and me have been team players this whole time. And she says, not everyone else has. She says, X has been the biggest team player because he's been willing to let allies go continuously. I mean, he really put up a fight last week. Not as much for Whitney, but last week, he was trying to flip that vote. But Azah says Hannah is also a team player, but she's still somewhat on her own. What does that mean? I don't see Hannah as being on her own. What? So anyway, Big D says, I need everyone in the 6 to be on the same page. I can't move forward until I know that we're all die hard for the 6. So Big D says, Azah and Kyland need to get on the same wavelength. You need to get that together. And he's also encouraging her to figure things out with Tiffany. Azah's got a lot of issues within the cookout right now. And Big D says, at this point, I honestly wish that you, Tiffany, and Hannah would make a final 3 deal together or something. What? So he can bring that information back to Kai and Xavier and be like, we got to get rid of the girls. We made a final 3 deal. It seems a little ridiculous. I'm a little skeptical about Big D on this topic. But anyway, Big D brings up that Xavier was saying he wants to mediate a conversation between Azah and Tiffany to get this all squared away. So we're going to be talking about that in a little bit. But later on in this conversation, Big D finally lets Azah know the truth about this week. He lets Azah know that he volunteered to be a pawn, and that's why he's up on the block. And he says, I did that to protect you. I'm protecting you at all costs because I need you here, and I need you to toughen up. He says, when it's time for you to make some strikes, I'm going to need you to make some strikes, you know? So Big D says, if I don't win this whole thing, I want one of the women from the cookout to win. Does he? I don't know about that. Because, like, he's got all these endgame deals with Xavier and Kyland. This is the first time hearing of him wanting a woman to win this. Like, what? Doesn't make sense with all the other stuff he's been saying. But Big D says, do you think I want to let go of Brittany? No. Did I think I would be sitting next to Brittany? I think he was pretty sure there was a good chance of it. But he says no. And he says, but I knew it would be better if I was up next to Brittany than you, because you do not have a good poker face. You would not handle this well. So Azah starts crying at the thought of Brittany leaving this week. She's really having a hard time with it. And Big D says, you just got to get it out. You got to cry it out. They move into the HOH room for some privacy. And Big D says, if we had won the power veto this week, Alyssa would be going. But Alyssa won this week, so it is what it is. And Big D says, I know it's tough, but let's remember, no one's dying here, which is a good point. I feel like a lot of times the house gets to feel like this is all like a life and death situation, but there really is going to be okay. It is a game at the end of the day. But anyway, Azah's struggling. She says she's trying to do her part for the cookout. She knows like they all have to get rid of their partners outside of the alliance eventually, but she says she feels like a villain right now. And Big D is telling her it's okay. You can vote me out and everybody else will vote to keep me. And he says, we're not the ones doing this to Brittany. Kai is. But like, you are part of it too. But Azah feels like Kyland only makes decisions for himself, not for the group. And she says he needs to be held accountable for that. Oh boy. Okay, so a little later, Azah and Tiffany do meet up in the have-not room to hash things out. And Xavier was there to mediate. And he says, I feel like there's been tension between you two for a while now. And he says, I want to make sure that you both really hear what the other one is saying and you share where you're coming from. And then once we get this sorted out, we can all move on together as a group. And he says, we need to be able to lean on each other during the tough times. It's going to be hard to get rid of our close friends who are not in the cookout, but we should be leaning on each other, not be like mad at each other. So they go over a bunch of issues. They're talking about the wild card competition when Tiffany and Derek X ganged up on Brittany. There was the time last week when Tiffany wanted to talk to Brittany about her vote, but Azah and Big D were very protective of her and wouldn't leave her side. So, they went through all that stuff again for the millionth time. And then, they ended up talking about how they're like sisters. Yeah, they're going to fight and butt heads every once in a while, but at the end of the day, they are like sisters. And they talk about how the cookout needs to stick together and continue to make history. So by the end of this conversation, they hug and they say they love each other. We'll see how long this lasts. I would love it to last. I would love for them to work together, but we'll see. I don't know. I think they have some core issues here. Their personalities just do not work together, at least in this game. Maybe things will be different once Brittany's gone. Who knows? But I think one of the main issues with the cookout is just that they never have all met together. They don't all meet together. That's going to lead to miscommunications. And of course, they end up spending more time with their allies outside of the cookout. So that is making things difficult as well, because then you're making moves to help these people that you're not as close with, and you're betraying the people that you are close with. But at the same time, them not all meeting together has allowed them to keep this under the radar. Nobody has truly figured this out yet, or at least hasn't vocalized it yet. So during that conversation, Claire finished her Duchess of the Deck punishment. She's all done with that. And a few hours later, Kyland finished his punishment. I'm going to miss the donkey. I'm going to miss the donkey costume. It was a lot of fun. But at one point, I think it was Xavier and Derek X, they put on two of the donkey costumes and they were going around like scaring people and being weirdos. And it was fun. Okay. So then later, remember I said that Kyland was planning on having more one-on-one meetings? He began holding his one-on-one meetings at 12:37 a.m. Big Brother time. So that's a.m. after midnight. Is that what a.m. stands for? I don't know, but it should. So, okay, he's doing these meetings. He's got his grid all set up again, but this time the lines are made by freaking Q-tips. He's got the candies and the snacks to use as tokens to answer his questions. So he's asking everybody the same questions from before the meetings that he was having before the nominations. He's adding on a few new ones. Why are you doing this? This is so unnecessary. It's pissing people off. It's weirding people out. So he's asking, like, who do you think is the most influential person in the house? Who's the most threatening for your personal game? Who would you nominate if you were HOH this week? Etc., etc. Kyland's got extreme HOH-itis. There's no other way to say it. I mean, there's a lot of other ways to say it, but HOH-itis, faux show. He's telling people that he's not answering any questions. He wasn't even clarifying things. He was just like, I'm not answering any questions. He's not making any promises. It's just not a good look. It's not a good look at all. So this morning, that was all last night. This morning, Brittany was feeling very nervous. She has no idea what's going to be happening with these powers of veto, power of vetoes. She doesn't know if either of them are going to be used. So she was also saying last night that she's going to freaking riot if she goes up on the block. Ah! Okay, so she's going around asking people if they know what's going on. She's trying to get information wherever she can. But they're all saying they don't know. You know, nobody is giving her that heads up. So Big D was nervous this morning too. He was talking to Kyland in the HOH room, and Big D is wondering, are we still going to have the votes to keep me this week? Because he's saying, all right, you can't vote because you're HOH. Brittany's not going to be able to vote because she's going to be up on the block next to me. And Azah will be voting for Brittany to stay, to lock in that jury vote, which he's not opposed to. And Kyland says it's okay. Everybody else is going to be voting for Brittany to go. So it's going to be 7-1. You've got nothing to worry about. He says, I double checked with everybody. People have been kicking around the idea of flipping, so I'm not saying that they would be able to get all the votes, but that thought is out there, and you never know what could happen. But Big D says, I don't trust Alyssa and SB. He thinks that they're up to something. And Big D's asking, why can't Brittany go up next to Claire? You know, why can't it be me coming off the block? And Kai says, Claire would not trust me anymore if I did that, because I already told her I'm going to use the veto on her. Like, it has to be this way. And he keeps telling Big D, it's going to be fine. Don't worry. So then the feeds went down a few minutes later for the power veto ceremony. Okay, so we know Kyland used his POV on Claire. He put up Brittany in her place. So it's Brittany versus Big D. And then Alyssa did not use her power veto. So either Brittany or Derek F will be going to the jury house on Thursday. Okay. So when the feeds came back, Brittany was crying explosively in the yacht club bedroom. Azah and Big D were in there with her. This was so hard to watch. I feel so bad for Brittany. She is crying and saying, Kyland is a freaking liar. He made a freaking deal with me and he went back on it. We freaking shook on it. Did he shake on it though? Because the conversation that I saw, she offered him the deal and he was like, yeah, that's cool. But like, I still got to talk to other people. And they didn't really shake on it. He didn't really agree to it. I don't know if they had a conversation after that where he did end up shaking on it. But from what I saw, he never actually agreed to the deal. But Brittany is saying that Kyland lied to her because he's afraid of her. She says, I'm so sick of being picked on in this house. I'm so sick of it. I mean, I wouldn't say she's getting picked on. I could see how maybe she would feel that way right now. But at the end of the day, I don't think she's being picked on in that way. But she's saying there's only two people in this house who care about her. It's Azah and Big D. That's so sad. And she says no one has had to deal with being on the block for 4 out of 6 weeks except for me. So Big D says that Kyland feels threatened by both of them. And he says Alyssa is a little bitch for not using the power veto on him. Not a little bitch. Oh, okay. Also, why would Alyssa use the power veto on Big D? When has he ever been close to Alyssa? And I'm pretty sure he's talked about targeting Alyssa for a long time now. But anyway, Big D says he's not going to be campaigning this week. He's not going to be kissing anyone's ass. And Brittany says she doesn't want to campaign against him either. But she knows, like, she has to. She can't just give up. So Azah, I feel like Azah's really throwing fuel on the fire here because she's saying this isn't game. Like, this is a personal move. What? Why are you saying that? Also, Brittany is saying, like, what's wrong with me? Why is everyone treating me this way? So I feel like with Azah saying that this is a personal move, that just makes Brittany feel even worse. And also, Azah knows exactly why this is happening. She knows exactly why. So I just feel like that was not cool that she said that. But Brittany says if Kyland asks her to talk, she's going to say no. I'm sure she'll change her mind on that. I'm sure once things calm down a bit, she will end up talking to Kyland. But I feel bad for Brittany being in this situation, especially since Azah and Big D have known about this and they did not give her a warning about it. I feel bad for her, but we're going to pick it up there tomorrow. We've got 3 days left until the eviction. As of right now, Brittany will be leaving, but you never know what could happen. So we'll see. I don't know. Is Claire going to push for Derek F to go? You know, she's been thinking about it for weeks now. Now she's got her chance, but I don't know if she's going to be able to get the votes. Come on in. Hi, Bowie. I know. I heard him scratch once or twice.
Don't follow the arrow. There's nothing there.
Okay.
It's a dead end.
Okay. Oh, Lulu's here too. Yay. 2 puppies. So I want to thank all of our super chatters so much because you guys are amazing. Jefferson Tucker, thank you so much. Laura Dalton, thank you so much. Sheena123, thank you so much. Dust Fingers. I love that name. Thank you so much. Is that like Cheetos dust or is it like dust?
Oh, or dust.
What? Oh, I didn't think about that. I don't know, but thank you.
It's a cool name though.
Yes. Rigo's Life, thank you so much. Anita Starr, thank you so much for the super chat. Janet Tucker 68, thank you so much. I saw some talk about Rocky Horror in the chat. Nice. Elizabeth, is it Daniluk? Thank you so much for the super chat. Dylan Hilliard, thank you so much. Oh, you love us. We love you too. That's very sweet of you. Lisa, thank you so much for the super chat. NM1000, thank you so much. And they have a question. Do you think enough voters mixed up Derek F and Derek X for both to get 100 BB bucks? I don't think so. I think that was primarily because they were like, yes, he's standing up for Brittany. Like they're the underdogs right now. I think that's where that came from, but you could be right. You never know. Candy, thank you so much for the super chat. And Candy says, I'm doing the Lord's work with listening to the one-on-ones. I'm going to be honest right now. I do not listen to all of the one-on-ones all the way through because I'm trying to stay sane, but I do try to read through as much of the transcripts as I can, but
well, it must be
I can't watch them all.
Demigod's work.
Yeah. But thank you. You're so sweet. Yeah, let's see. Oh, Matty says, Brittany definitely reminds me of Willow from BB Can 3. Same positive energy, similar smile. I could see that. Yeah, I could see some Willow vibes from Brittany for sure.
Some who?
Willow from BB Can 3. Okay. Anyway, so much for being here. We'll see how the next few days play out. Do you think there's any possibility of a vote flip?
Yes.
You think so?
Could be.
I don't know. I think the Cookout would have to turn on each other for it to happen.
Well, then no.
Okay. But anyway, before we go, if you guys are interested in designing your own custom jersey, woo, this is my Madrosed one.
So hot.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Check out Team Jerseys Pro. We've got a link below. And if you use the code Madrosed, you'll get a 10% discount, which is great.
It's high quality.
It is very high quality. It's very, very comfortable. And a lot of times with jerseys, the material is like super thick and you feel like you're going to sweat yourself to death. Mm-hmm. But this one is lightweight. Yeah. It's good. It's a good time. But we also have a super chat here from Nini Girl.
Nini!
Julie, thank you so much for the super chat. Sean is still into Mad Magazine. He loves it. He lines them all up on the table in the dining room.
Them all too.
He does.
Them.
Yeah. So thank you for the super chat. But we'll see you guys tomorrow. So until next time, thank you so much for watching and much love. Here's your awkward ending.